In the bustling kitchen of Santa's workshop at the North Pole, chaos erupted on the eve of Christmas Eve. The room, usually filled with the sweet aroma of freshly baked cookies, now smelled only of panic and confusion. Dozens of elves, each no taller than 3 feet, with pointy ears and rosy cheeks, scurried about in their green and red uniforms. Their little bells jingled frantically as they searched high and low, opening and closing cupboards, peering into empty cookie jars, and even looking under the sink. "The cookies are gone! All of them!" cried Jingle, a young elf with curly red hair and freckles dotting her pale skin. Her emerald eyes widened in disbelief as she held up yet another empty cookie jar. "How can this be? We baked hundreds just yesterday." Tinsel, an older elf with silver hair tied back in a neat bun and wise brown eyes, adjusted her spectacles and frowned. "This is most unusual," she said, her voice calm despite the commotion around her. "We must inform Santa at once. Christmas Eve is tomorrow, and he needs his energy for the big night." As if summoned by the mention of his name, Santa Claus himself appeared in the doorway. His long white beard flowed over his round belly, and his rosy cheeks seemed even rosier than usual. His twinkling blue eyes surveyed the scene as he adjusted his red hat trimmed with white fur. "Ho ho ho! What's all this fuss about?" he boomed, his jolly voice filling the kitchen. The elves fell silent, their bells no longer jingling. Jingle stepped forward, wringing her hands nervously. "Oh, Santa," she said, her voice quivering, "I'm afraid we have terrible news. All the Christmas cookies! They've disappeared." Santa's eyebrows shot up in surprise, disappearing under the brim of his hat. "Disappeared, you say? Well, that is quite a pickle." He stroked his beard thoughtfully, leaving a trail of cookie crumbs in its white fluffiness. The elves gasped, their eyes fixed on the telltale evidence. "Santa!" exclaimed Tinsel, her voice a mix of shock and amusement. "Did you eat all the cookies?" Santa's cheeks grew even redder, if that was possible, and he let out a sheepish chuckle. "Oh dear," he said, brushing the crumbs from his beard. "I'm afraid I got a bit carried away during my midnight snack. You see, they were just so delicious." The kitchen erupted in laughter, the tension melting away like snow on a warm day. Jingle giggled, her bell-like laughter infectious. "But Santa," she said between giggles, "what about the children? Won't they be disappointed if there are no cookies left for them?" Santa's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Well, my dear elves," he said, clapping his hands together, "I believe we have a quest on our hands. We must bake more cookies, and quickly too." The elves cheered, their bells jingling merrily as they rushed to gather ingredients. As flour flew and eggs cracked, Santa rolled up the sleeves of his red jacket and joined in the baking frenzy. "You know," he said, mixing a large bowl of dough, "I've learned an important lesson today. Sharing our treats is much more fun than keeping them all to ourselves." Tinsel nodded wisely as she carefully placed cookie cutters and rolled out dough. "That's right, Santa," she said. "The real magic of Christmas isn't in the treats we eat, but in the joy we share with our friends and loved ones." As the delicious smell of baking cookies once again filled the kitchen, Jingle piped up, "Santa, maybe we could make extra cookies this year? That way, we can share them with all the elves and reindeer too." Santa beamed at her, his eyes twinkling brighter than ever. "What a wonderful idea, Jingle! That's the spirit of Christmas right there!" The kitchen was a flurry of activity as elves of all sizes worked together, rolling dough, cutting shapes, and decorating cookies with colorful icing. They sang Christmas carols as they worked, their voices blending in perfect harmony. Even the reindeer poked their heads in through the window, their antlers adorned with twinkling lights, curious about the commotion. As the last batch of cookies came out of the oven, Santa looked around at his hard-working elves with pride. "My friends," he said, his voice warm and full of love. "You've all done a marvelous job! Now, let's share these delicious treats and remember that the greatest gift of all is the love we have for one another." And with that, they all sat down to enjoy their cookies, laughing and sharing stories late into the night, ready for the magic of Christmas to begin.